guys, it's Shelby, otherwise known as Shelbizleee here on YouTube, and today I am here to talk about the ever so exciting, very sexy topic, climate change. Now, the reason I think that people are not as interested or invested in making a change in climate change as they are in zero waste is because it seems like such a massive thing, right? It seems so distant, and all the effects we've been told for years are going to be in the future. And it also just seems like something that an individual couldn't make a difference in. It seems like individuals can't make a big enough difference to stop such a massive thing from happening, stop so much destruction from happening, but I happen to disagree. I think individuals got us into this mess, and individuals will be the thing that get us out of it. And I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that companies don't have a responsibility here. Of course they do. Of course they are the big contributors. But you have to keep in mind that businesses don't operate just to operate. They operate depending on what the market is demanding. And do you know who creates that market? You and me. The ever so internet famous interactive media arts wanted me to talk about climate change today. So in their honor, I'm giving you 7 ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Let's get started. The first thing I wanted to talk about is not to overlook your local elections. You guys, there are so many changes that happen at the local level that if you just got involved in talking to your politicians, being on a board, just voting for the correct people to be in office to make the right decisions can make a huge difference. For instance, Texas is infamous for smaller cities wanting to make changes for the better, and then Texas basically coming down and slamming them and telling them they can't. It happened in Denton when they tried to ban fracking within city limits. Texas decided to make it illegal to ban fracking within city limits. It's really messed up. They recently did the same thing with our plastic bag ban. Smaller cities kept banning them, and then Texas came in and said banning plastic bags is illegal. It's frustrating, but when you're involved, you can advocate for people to vote for things that you like, whether it's at the state level or the local level. So not all of these tips are going to be as boring or like basic as getting involved in your local politics, but that can literally be the biggest way to make a real change. Tip number 2 is to shop local. Obviously, a huge contributor to climate change is transportation, moving things from place to place. If you buy local vegetables, and it doesn't mean that you have to go to the farmer's market. I understand that not everybody has a farmer's market or can make it to the farmer's market. But if there's a type of lettuce that you can purchase that's grown in your state versus grown in Mexico, choose the one that's grown in your state because it's more local and therefore had less transportation costs, and you're creating a demand for those local products. I said all of these tips weren't going to be basic and boring, but this one is probably one you've heard a bajillion times before, but it is drive less. But I wanted to emphasize it on this because I don't have great public transportation. I can't really walk to many places where I live just because of how bad sprawl is here in Austin, but something that I can do as often as possible is carpool. Don't drive multiple cars from this place to that place. When I was younger, my cousins would not ride with their parents, like literally from their house to our house, because they wanted to drive separate cars because now they could drive them and they were like so excited to do that. And people still do that now, just not thinking about it. So this weekend I actually carpooled with my aunt from Houston to Dallas so that I didn't also have to drive my car from Houston to Dallas. And that saved a lot of carbon emissions just right there. So just get a little bit more creative with how you can intertwine less driving into your daily life. It's a lot less stressful and it'll also save you some money. So we've got get involved in your local politics, drive less, shop local. Tip number 4 is going to be reduce your red meat intake. Your carbon footprint drastically changes if you cut red meat out of your diet, as well as your water footprint and all sorts of other things like the impacts you're having on our oceans through dead zones, runoff because of nutrients, etc., etc. The environmental benefits go on and on, as well as the ethical ones of not eating animals that you don't need to survive. So I beg of you, cut beef out of your diet. I know if you have not considered that before, it can seem like a huge task, but it can actually have a ginormous impact on our planet. So please do me a favor and at least consider it. Tip number 5 is call your energy provider and see if you can invest in clean energy. It's something that you can do here in Austin. You can call up your local provider and you can pay, I think it's a little bit more or it might be just as much, and sometimes it fluctuates, but you can tell them that you want your house to run off of wind energy. Wind energy is a huge thing here in Texas. Well, it's mostly out in West Texas, but we produce so much wind energy here that if you call your local provider and tell them that you want to support that, they will put that on their list, and so your money is then going to those infrastructures instead of greenhouse gases in the traditional way of creating energy. Your energy provider probably has something similar to that. Sometimes, like I said, it costs a little bit more, but it is definitely helpful in reducing your carbon footprint. Tip number 6 is something that is super obvious and I talk about constantly on this channel, but it is just to reduce what you produce. Purchase less things new, reuse what you already have, recycle what you can. By using resources that have already been created, you're stopping more things from having to be produced. And it's a huge thing to like think about when you have not thought about it before, but the supply chain of literally just anything you can think of. This ring, my engagement ring, had to be mined and transported and melted down and heated up and done all these things to it just to get it right here. So the less things you can purchase, the less your carbon footprint is going to be because of that. Obviously my channel focuses mostly on that, but please don't ever forget the reason we're doing that is to help save so many different aspects of the environment, to conserve resources, but also to reduce our carbon footprint and thereby reducing the effects of climate change. And finally, number 7 is to buy into offsets. So there are a ton of different companies, I'll link some below, that will plant trees that you pay for to help offset your carbon emissions. If you didn't know, trees take in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. So by planting more and more and more trees, we're bringing more carbon out of the atmosphere. And there are a ton of ways to calculate your carbon footprint on the internet. Lots of different websites, again, I'll link them down below. And then once you know your carbon footprint, you can find out how many trees you need to kind of mitigate that, and then you can go purchase those trees. So that's just an option to offset your carbon footprint. Obviously that's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to pay to do that for their carbon footprint, but a free way that you can plant trees is using Ecosia. I've talked about them before, and they're just a browser wherever you search things on the internet. They use so much of their ad revenue for planting trees. So that's an absolutely free way to start planting trees just by doing what you already do in your daily life anyway. So yeah, that's it for this video, you guys. I'll have so many resources listed down below. I really hope that after so much stuff that's come out about climate change recently, you don't feel discouraged, you don't feel isolated, you feel like you can still do something. It's not too late to make a difference. Every little thing that we do matters, and I want you to hopefully be energized to do more, not less, because that's not what we want around here. I also wanted to do one of my Instagram shoutouts really quickly to someone named Lindsay. Her name is Lindsay, but she runs an Instagram and a website called Zeroing In. She talks about zero waste, obviously. She also has a zero waste newsletter. She tags me in so many amazing zero waste swaps that she makes. So I wanted her to be the shout out here today. Remember, if you want to be my next shout out, all you have to do is tag me in a sustainable thing that you're doing on Instagram and you could be my next shout out. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye guys.